Dennis Edwards died at 74. But how he lived, that part is even more heartbreaking. A chart-topping legend, a soul icon, a Grammy-winning frontman for one of music's greatest groups. But behind the scenes, things were far from glamorous. Let's take a look at the man whose voice defined an era, but whose final years were clouded by pain, struggle, and mystery. Dennis Edwards Jr. was born on February 3, 1943, in Fairfield, Alabama. This small town sat just 8 miles from Birmingham. His musical journey started incredibly early. At just 2 years old, he was already singing in his father's church. Can you imagine? A toddler with a voice that would one day shake the world. When Dennis was between 7 and 10 years old, his family moved to Detroit, Michigan. This move would change everything. In Detroit, he kept singing in church. He loved it so much that he became a choir director. Music wasn't just his hobby, it was his calling. As a teenager, Dennis joined a gospel group called the Mighty Clouds of Joy. He also studied music formally at the Detroit Conservatory of Music. His mother didn't approve of secular music. She wanted him to stick with gospel. But Dennis had bigger dreams. He wanted to explore rhythm and blues. In 1961, Dennis formed his own group. He called it Dennis Edwards and the Fireballs. It was a soul and jazz group. He even recorded a single called I Didn't Have To, But I Did for a small Detroit label. The label was called International Soulville Records. Then life took another turn. Dennis served in the U.S. military from January 1961 to December 1963. He worked as a field artilleryman. After his service, he auditioned for Motown Records in 1966. Motown signed him as a solo artist at first, but then they put him with the Contours. Their lead singer, Billy Gordon, had fallen ill. Everything changed in 1967. The Contours were opening for the Temptations. Two members of the Temptations, Eddie Kendricks and Otis Williams, heard Dennis sing. They were amazed. They knew they had found something special. This moment would lead to Dennis joining one of the greatest groups in music history. In July 1968, Dennis Edwards officially joined the Temptations. He replaced David Ruffin as the lead singer. This was a huge moment. David Ruffin was iconic. But Dennis brought something different. His voice was rougher, more gospel-influenced. It was perfect for what the Temptations needed. Dennis helped the Temptations evolve their sound. They moved into psychedelic music, funk, and disco. His powerful vocals drove this transformation. He served as lead singer for 14 years total. He had 3 different periods with the group, 1968 to 1976, 1980 to 1984, and 1987 to 1989. Dennis sang lead on some of the Temptations' biggest hits. Cloud 9 was one of them. This song earned Motown its first Grammy Award in 1968. Dennis also led the group on Papa Was a Rollin' Stone. This song won another Grammy in 1972. Other major hits with his voice included Psychedelic Shack, Runaway Child, Ball of Confusion, and I Can't Get Next to You. The success was incredible. The Temptations sold over 100 million recordings worldwide. They earned 14 gold records and 16 platinum albums. Dennis personally received 7 Grammy Awards throughout his career. In 1989, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Temptations. Rolling Stone magazine named the Temptations among the 100 greatest artists of all time. After leaving the Temptations for the final time, Dennis started a solo career. His debut solo album was called Don't Look Any Further. It came out in 1984 through Gordy Records. The album was recorded at studios in California. Dennis Lambert produced it. The title track, Don't Look Any Further, became a huge hit. It was a duet with Siedah Garrett. The song reached number 2 on the R&B charts in 1984. While Dennis never had another solo hit quite as big, this song created its own legacy. The bass line became iconic. Hip-hop, R&B, and pop artists have sampled it dozens of times over the decades. This shows how Dennis influenced music even beyond his main career. Dennis also performed with former Temptation singers David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks in the early 1990s. In 1997, he founded the Temptations Review featuring Dennis Edwards. This allowed him to keep performing the classic songs that fans loved. But Dennis's life wasn't all success and glory. He struggled with serious personal problems. These struggles often overshadowed his musical achievements. Dennis battled drug problems throughout his career. These weren't just occasional issues. They were ongoing struggles that directly affected his work. Reports show he was fired a record 3 times from the Temptations. The reason was his behavior and worsening cocaine use. His talent was so valued that the Temptations kept taking him back. But his substance abuse created constant tension and instability. His personal relationships were also troubled. Dennis had a relationship with Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. This relationship ended due to infidelity. Despite the problems, Franklin acknowledged that Dennis inspired her song Daydreaming. This shows the deep emotional connection they had, even if it ended badly. Dennis was briefly married to Ruth Pointer of the Pointer Sisters. They wed in Las Vegas in 1977. They had one daughter, Isa Pointer, who later joined her mother's group. But this marriage also faced serious challenges. It was reportedly marked by allegations of abuse. Dennis's final years brought new struggles. He developed meningitis, a serious medical condition. Around 2017, complications from meningitis made him quadriplegic. He became bedridden and couldn't move. He was receiving treatment in Chicago at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. His health seemed to improve at times, but he was on many medications. He experienced depression and paranoia. He had thoughts that people were trying to harm him. This included his wife and medical team. Before his death, serious allegations were made against his wife, Brenda Edwards. An anonymous tip to a state hotline claimed elder abuse. Court documents said Brenda tried to suffocate Dennis by holding his head face down in a pillow. The documents also said she removed his hearing aids while he was bedridden. When a caseworker visited their apartment on January 3, 2018, Dennis himself said his wife was trying to harm him. But there was a complication. Doctors at Northwestern Memorial Hospital had noted Dennis's odd paranoid thoughts. They documented that he said his wife and medical team were trying to kill him. Brenda Edwards strongly denied all allegations. She said, "Everybody knows I love my husband." She claimed the abuse allegations were orchestrated. After the caseworker called police, Dennis was removed from their home. Brenda wanted him returned to Northwestern, where doctors knew his medical history and paranoia. Instead, he was taken to Mercy Hospital and Medical Center, where he had no treatment history. On January 12, 2018, the caseworker filed an emergency protection order against Brenda. But Dennis Edwards died on February 1, 2018, just one day before Brenda's scheduled court appearance. The Cook County Medical Examiner's report was clear. Dennis Edwards died due to complications of meningitis. The report explicitly stated that no signs of abuse were found. This contradicted the abuse claims. Brenda and her legal team were frustrated with the state's lack of transparency. The Department of Aging refused to release documents about their investigation. A criminal investigation was opened by the Chicago Police Department, but the results of this investigation were never made public. This leaves questions unanswered about what really happened. Dennis Edwards left behind a complex legacy. His musical contributions were extraordinary. His powerful voice helped define soul and R&B music for generations. He was part of one of the greatest groups in music history. His solo work influenced countless artists through that iconic bass line. But his story also shows the hidden struggles that many artists face. Success and talent don't protect anyone from personal demons. Dennis battled addiction, relationship troubles, and health problems. His final months were marked by confusion and allegations that may never be fully understood. Despite everything, Dennis Edwards' impact on music cannot be denied. His voice shaped an era. His influence continues today through the artists who sample his work and carry on his musical legacy. He reminds us that even in struggle, art can transcend and inspire. Dennis Edwards died at 74, but his music lives forever.